Black Panther Wakanda Forever starts today. But should you actually see it this weekend? We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 171 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hi, Brian.
So, we've got a bunch of things that are coming up. Today, we have Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2, and that started today, and I had considered taking a little bit of time off from work and catching the early showing today. Mm-hmm. And the earliest showing was around 3 o'clock, and I thought, okay, well, how long is this movie? Because I had heard it was a bit long, but I hadn't actually looked it up. And it's 2 hours and 41 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought to myself, well, even if something were to happen and they forgot to show the trailers at the beginning, it's still going to be late, especially to get back in here in enough time to do the podcast. But the fact that they're not going to forget to do the trailers, I thought, well, it's not like I could call you and say, hey, can you hang out till 7 to get here? So I am definitely going to see it tomorrow. Okay. Since we have Veterans Day and a holiday. Yes. So I will have all day to check it out. So that's going to be my Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. And I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I've been trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible. Right. I have seen a few interviews. Of course, Ryan Coogler has been talking a lot about how he had to do a major rewrite of the script for obvious reasons because of Chadwick Boseman. What I didn't know until I read this interview, apparently Ryan had planned to give Chadwick a copy of the script to read it over, and he said he didn't want to read it. I think he knew. Oh. So, man. I think at that point, he figured his time was about up.
I don't want to know what I'm missing.
Yeah.
Oh, that is heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, one thing that Ryan Coogler talked about was he wanted to make the movie a tribute to Chadwick, but he also didn't want to make it one big, long downer. Mm-hmm. He had to be able to draw that balance. He wanted to pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman, but he also wanted to put out a great Marvel movie and, of course, to get people interested in what comes afterwards. Mm-hmm. So it's a fine line to draw, obviously, and especially when people are mixed about whether or not they thought Black Panther should have been recast. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a difficult line to walk, but a lot of people who've already seen the movie, reviewers, have said that it's going to be a really touching and emotional movie. Wow. And although some people might be like, oh, it's so emotional. Well, all movies should be emotional. Mm-hmm. That's the point of a movie. It's supposed to invoke an emotion. Mm-hmm. And this is going to invoke a lot of them. So it's going to be one of those things. It's like, do you need to bring tissues? Well, it wouldn't hurt to. Okay. I think so. But I did want to talk a little bit, since we're on the subject of Black Panther. There has been a TikTok that's gone viral, and it's very similar to a TikTok that went viral when the first Black Panther movie went out. In both cases, we had an African-American woman who basically stated that if you're a white person but an ally, and you want to prove yourself to be an ally, you need to avoid the theater. You need not to go see Black Panther the first weekend. Okay. And they said it's because this is a movie for black people. You can watch it the next weekend, it doesn't matter, but you should avoid the theaters. Let us, as the way she put it, let us have this weekend. This is our movie. It belongs to us. Okay. And I didn't know if I should address that TikTok because, for the most part, a lot of people already have. A lot of people in the black community have posted saying this is ridiculous, you shouldn't do this. And I'm not about to suggest that I know what this person's motivations were, whether she was sincere or not sincere, and if not, what is it she's actually trying to do? Is she playing some kind of a game? Is it a troll? Is it reverse psychology because she thinks by saying this, a bunch of racists are going to go, well, I'll show her and go by. You know, I can't say any of that stuff. Yep. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I thought I would address it just briefly in case there's anybody listening who thinks that maybe they shouldn't go see the movie because they don't want to offend anybody, they don't want anybody to be mad at them. First of all, nobody's going to be mad at you. You're not going to be an ally by avoiding the movie the first weekend. And people who understand the way that movies work, that first weekend is so crucially important. And you want those numbers to be
more tickets.
Yeah, you want that to be your biggest weekend, and it's what gives you the momentum going through. Now, not to say that if white people were to completely avoid Black Panther, that it wouldn't eventually make money. But at the same time, this movie has a really good chance of becoming one of the biggest box office movies of all time. Definitely in the top 10.
Wow.
But that's going to depend on your opening weekend. And so those numbers are important. Now, by saying that, I'm also not saying that for black creators to be successful, that they need to cater to white audiences. I think the point of movies like Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever is that movies can absolutely tell the types of stories that they're wanting to tell and still be extremely successful. I think that the power of a lot of these movies that are made by people of color and different cultures, I think the power of those films is the fact that they tell their stories, but because they are human stories, they carry over. And so I think that it's really important that everybody get a chance to see these movies. And also, this whole idea of art created by people of color is for them, and it doesn't speak to white people, is patently false. I think that's the point of it. I think I said the same thing when we were talking about Miss Marvel. Was this whole idea of, yes, this is taking place in a family where it's a Muslim family, and for a lot of us who aren't Muslim, this is an experience that we've never had. But by seeing this family that's like, oh, my family does this.
Yes, they're exactly like that.
Yeah, so that's the power of telling these stories. People getting the chance to tell their own stories, but also for people who are not a part of that culture or that tradition, being able to see themselves in those things as well. And that's a much more powerful thing. Now, that being said, if Maurice Broaddus dropped me a DM or called me and said, Brian, I'd rather you not see the film this weekend, yeah, I would.
Someone personal, someone you know.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because for me, it isn't the fact that it's like, well, I should be able to do whatever I want. That's not where any of this is coming from. It's that I know that the best way that I can support Ryan Coogler and all of the people who are a part of this film, who've worked so hard to make this film, and the blood, sweat, and tears. In Letitia Wright's case, actually getting injured on set.
Yeah.
She put in more than her all in this. The best way to support them is to pay my hard-earned money to see them and possibly make this film in the top 10 highest-grossing opening weekends of all time.
Yeah.
That's how I support that film. And I think that's the way we all should support that film.
Now, me, I hardly ever go to see opening weekends anyway because I don't like the crowds. It's ultimately a choice that the individual is going to have to make.
Yeah, so. I certainly do agree with that for sure. And I may wind up supporting it not just this weekend, but maybe there might be a weekend where I drive to Columbus to see it.
On IMAX?
On IMAX.
Yeah.
I may have to... I may have to check it out that way.
It would depend on... We're getting a brand new world in Wakanda Forever. We're getting to see the undersea world, Marvel's Atlantis. So we are going to have something brand new that we've never seen. We are going to have all this great wire work and water work that is going to be really interesting to see, and how Marvel handles that side of it. Something that we've been in space, we've been on alien planets, we've been everywhere, but we haven't been under the water. So that would be really interesting to see, huge like that, 3D and the like.
Oh, yeah. I cannot wait. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Yes. But a little bit of an aside, I want to talk just a second of Doctor Who. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the news. Have you had a chance to see the new Doctor Who logo?
Seen what I assume was parodies that had Mickey Mouse on it because it was going to be on Disney.
Yeah.
I've seen those, but I don't know what the real one is.
Yeah, well, it's a blue diamond, and it looks really familiar.
Okay.
It looks like the old school Tom Baker logo.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
There was that moment where they brought it back. And I don't remember we talked about that before.
I think it's like the bright orange
well,
one.
It's a blue logo. And the pattern of it is, although it's a little more 3D, it is very much a throwback to that old diamond logo of the Tom Baker era.
I think I have patches of that one.
Yeah. And I was going to bring that up. And I also wanted to mention we have a new issue of Doctor Who magazine coming out. And they have a comic inside that tells a Doctor Who story. And the story they're going to tell is moments after Jodie Whittaker
transforms into David Tennant.
Yes. And it's
I
going
know
to be
these teeth.
Yeah. And it's going to be literally moments after it happened. And in the Doctor Who comics, for the most part, tend to be canonical. So this may be our first taste of what this new Doctor is going to be like.
Right.
Because literally him going back into the TARDIS and trying to learn how to fly it again and things like that. And so
it all looks different.
it's like I used to be, this is literally from the comic panel that I saw, is I used to be able to work these controls like the back of my hand. He goes, and I've got a new back of my hand, but it's an old back of my hand.
So kind of throw back to when he got his hand chopped off. And
yeah.
Yep. Cannot wait. Love it.
I'm really curious to see what they do with this. Like we talked about last week, there are going to be 3 specials. And this is something that's like brand spanking new. They've never done this before, where they brought an old doctor back, which, depending on your viewpoint, is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? Willing to give Davies the opportunity to
I
run
trust
with
him.
it? Yeah, that's also your doctor. So.
Yeah, that is my doctor, and I did love the Russell T Davies, that whole era, including Eccleston and everything, so I enjoy that. I trust.
Yeah. While we've got all this stuff to look forward to, I did want to mention that it seems really odd. Streaming services, they are in prequel fever right now. I am seeing a bunch of new shows that are coming out that were popular shows before that they're now looking at, where did all this come from?
Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones.
And recently I've seen stuff on the Winchesters, which is
yes. Although I have friends that have watched the Winchesters. It's on a night that I think it's on Thursday nights, so I never watch it, but they don't think that the CW is going to pick it up next year, that it didn't do as well as they thought it was going to. They changed the story. They changed the canon from the original, but I get it, because if the whole point was that their dad didn't start hunting until his wife was killed, now it turns out he's been hunting the whole time. They changed the story, that could upset fans, but I could see why else would you want a supernatural TV show if they're not hunting?
Right.
So I get that, and The Witcher's got a prequel coming out.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a prequel or not, but it's at least a spinoff, the John Wick spinoff called Ballerina.
Ooh, no.
Yeah, so it's going to be based off of that world, although I think Keanu Reeves is going to be making some appearances in it. But it's basically another corner of that world. So they're at least doing that part of it. And although not a spinoff, it's a series that I did not expect to see again, because it's been 3 years. And I've talked about it on the show. First of all, oh my God, we've been doing this for 3 years. Well, longer than 3 years.
Yeah.
But you may have recalled that I talked a lot about Carnival Row.
Yes.
And they just released a trailer today for season 2.
Real? Are you serious? Wow.
I was shocked. They ended the first season on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Where the city had been split in half. And it was like you didn't hear anything about it again, and you're like, that's what
COVID got it.
COVID got it. Bunch of things got it. A lot of different things, and sometimes it's like maybe I didn't get a chance to really look at the ratings or anything, but I figured, okay, maybe it died on the vine because it was weird. But
exactly know its audience.
I didn't know. I mean. I certainly was its audience.
Yeah, it's like Peaky Blinders and Lord of the Rings had a baby. It would be Carnival Row.
Yeah, and very much like the social commentary. Very heavy social commentary, which it was tailor-made for me. I enjoyed the heck out of that series. But I thought, okay, it's like you didn't hear anything else about it. and so it was dead, and it may have been, but it has come back from the dead.
Wow.
And we got this really interesting teaser trailer that's like, oh, something weird is about to happen. A very dreamlike sequence, which was pretty cool.
Very.
But first part of next year, and it's going to be the second and the final season, so they're going...
It'll be more like a mini-series then.
Yeah, very much.
Limited series, I believe they're saying.
But I'm ready to dive back into that world again, and we're going to get the opportunity to do it. So I'm looking really forward to that. Because a lot of things are ending. And this weekend, because I've got AMC Plus, I'll be able to see the series finale of The Walking Dead.
Wow, I cannot believe.
Yeah, it's up on... The season finale, the season finale for Interview with the Vampire.
Yes, I haven't seen it yet. Oh, yeah. I'm dying.
We're probably going to be spending the next podcast talking about those things.
The finales, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk. We will definitely talk about those finales, and we'll definitely have to have our goodbyes to The Walking Dead because that'll be it. And of course, there's other shows coming up for it, but the original, the one that started it, spawned it. Yep.
Yes.
This will be it. And like I've said before, I'm so glad that unlike the comic, they let you know the end was coming. Which they... Not
surprised.
Yeah, no surprise with, look at, why is this episode of the comic a little bit thicker? Wait a minute, it's the last one?
Last ever.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's audience abuse, but I wouldn't want to have to take it to court. That's what I'm saying. But, this is going to be the end of an era for sure.
Right.
But we'll definitely talk about that. We'll talk about... I don't think you've seen all of Cabinet of Curiosities yet.
No, not all of them.
I have not seen them all yet either. Maybe if we can... With everything else that's going on, if we get the chance to watch all of those, we can throw that into the mix too. But certainly I'm going to be talking about Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, and that will definitely be on the top of my list for next week.
Yep.
So with that said, we come to the end of episode 171. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.